In this video, I'm going to address how anything but martial arts monarchy, the true Sun Temple Pharaoh monarchy, which is going to never happen because I'm going to die without having a child, is an immoral, evil system. I'm going to talk about who, what, when, where, how, why, and it's going to be impossible to make an argument to the contrary. Let's start with elder, right? What is the wordplay there? Red, L-E, right? They read the book, the red team, principle of evil. Rod, L-E, as a phallic symbol, as a symbol of leadership and so on. Rude, L-E, riddle, E, and rad, L-E. Obviously, in the absence of the horse, the elder, the Eldor, there is no Eldor in its pure form as the true God. Ra is El, but rather the door to the principle of evil by the old. The old who are outside the divine order. So if you're not in the spirit of Horus, the elder, and you're just an elder, you're a bad person. It goes back to the survivor, with all due respect. It pains me to say these things. The possible exception is my family, because they stood with me and helped carry me through this as I delivered my message. So in a sense, they're being loyal, but ultimately they were not. So beef. Beef backwards can be seen as fo obi, also fi obi. This goes back to the club. Club backwards is bulk. So if you miss the point about torque and transferable skills for combat and so on and sparring, you might make the mistake of thinking that this works in their favor. And certainly a big club and a big guy, you might make the mistake of seeing that, and that is also the A as the bull that covers the light and not the hawk. Moving on. Sword backwards is draws. Okay? Word backwards is draw. A broken word, because of mind control, works in the victim of mind control's favor. Okay, I can draw on my desire to have kept my word and the fact that they went to great lengths using drugs and mind control that most people don't want to believe is true, even though there's an abundance of evidence, to get me to break the word. Moving on. All is fair in love and war versus only Ra as the true El and his sacred morality coming down from heaven. Everything else is self-direction, subjective nonsense. Okay, it doesn't take a genius to see that anybody in their right mind is going to see that I'm right. It's impossible to see it any other way. And it goes back to having the heart to follow through. Magic backwards, where the M is the arc, can be seen as cage, A, or just cage. Okay, it's a psychological construct, a mental prison, etc. So when we look at torque, right, we can see your key, your ka in the wordplay. The T is the plus, or key, right, and so on. Okay. Let's see, I think we get EU crate. Okay, so EU cage, and it goes back to magic, right? So when we look at the ideas around torque and the different applications of it and the different ways it proves me right and the different things they're trying to avoid and so on. But then this is a scientific perspective. You have to think outside science or you miss the point of life, which is the spirit of God and understanding God, which can't be done with science. Okay, you need God's spiritly. Science is a distraction. Look at all this wordplay, right? This is basically a scientific approach to explaining why I'm right. Look at how much time is wasted. In many ways, I needed a beautiful woman to help me live my life and to settle down and to unwind and to eventually pass away. Instead, I'm stuck in this kind of scientific mental prison. They've made it so I need to wear glasses so I look like a fucking geek, especially when you add the 30 pounds of muscle or so spread out throughout my body. I'm 6'4" or so, okay? It allowed me to move fast and effective and have a leopard-shaped body, okay? It becomes extraordinarily, it becomes intensely despicable. So we look at, there's no true alternative. We say you're sorry, right? If you're sorry, you're going to soar in the way that Ra intended, soar Ra. Or you're going to sow Ra, okay? Why raise, right? So Ra. So Ra can do what he does. So we look at right, G as the G and the H and the T can be removed. The T is the plus, the H is the fence, the G is the silent G of masonry, silent G in Ebo, and so on. Okay, you get Ra. So Ra is right. And if you're sorry, you're going to sow Ra. You're going to sow Ra. And obviously mankind cannot be sorry for their ancestors anymore. They're forced into Satanism in the absence of a true pharaoh. They're just going to have some kind of make-believe bitch if they even bother, and it's doubtful that they would even bother. So we go to wrong, okay? Right versus wrong. What is wrong? Well, ring. Does it ring a bell? You know? Marriage, right? A ring. And there, I believe there's, you know, it's been a while since I've been in marriage, but I think there's church bells or something, bells associated with the marriage, right? So ring, it rings a bell, and that goes bell and ball, right? Cabal, ball, and criminal ring, right? A criminal ring, a group, okay? Saturn, the ring around Saturn, the deity of role reversal, the harvest, and so on. The age of Saturn, you know, Kronos kills his own child to survive, and so on. Okay, his own children, to try to maintain his throne. So we get chess, right? Chase, as in a race. Also CEs. So basically, there's no alternative way to view it. They've basically played chess with humanity, and they forced them to accept that they have been building toward hell for them and their children, and they must accept it as such. So this is scientific Satanism that has allowed them to do it. So on, right? In an evil manner. Okay, system, not A's. So in the absence of Pharaoh, there is no, you know, man is like a planet out of orbit. The sun is what keeps them in orbit. It keeps them doing God's work. Without that, they're gone. They've been out of orbit for quite some time, with the sun not really affecting their movement. And as a result, there's been darkness and sexual immorality and all this fear and love and war, you know, using people's kids to coerce them into sex and so on and so forth, and all this horrible, horrible stuff that these cowards do. All right, so we talk about Latin-based languages, the wordplay. The culture testifies against them. Okay, so why are they spreading? Why do they spend so much time spreading English and French? You know, Cameroon, I believe Sierra Leone, and so on, throughout the world? Because these are the Latin-based languages that get you to have a culture, you know, in your language, your behavior, the food, everything, to then show that you do the works of Satan, and that your wordplay shows your allegiance to Satan. The ideas that you have accepted, you live and breathe, right? Spiritus, to breathe. Okay, the wordplay just points to the ideas that we all know. Okay, so while you're testifying against yourself, it's like you should know better. The ideas that we all know, you know, when we see yellow, what do we think of? You know, the sun is yellow. Okay, that should come to mind first, right? So, you know, do we need all this wordplay to spell it out? Oh, you know, it's the principle of good and blah blah blah, or is it just common sense? And there's countless examples. You know, is it common sense that you shouldn't help pedophiles and rapists control people for self-gain? You shouldn't raise your kids the way, you know, complete immoral, you know, people who live by the principle of evil want you to. I mean, it's a no-brainer, really. And your wordplay really goes the distance to testify against you. All right, so who, what, when, where, how, why. Who? I was a martial artist. You know that. So you have to ask yourself, before we ask ourselves about the system, let's ask yourself about the guy presenting the story. Who am I? I'm the top martial artist. I'm a martial artist who's the son of two doctors, one a brain surgeon, from an upper middle class family, from the demographic, you know, in this case a racial demographic, known for talking sense and for being killed for telling the truth. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, black people tend to, you know, be the most down to earth, talking sense. Other groups are said to have variations of white denial. What is the opposite of white denial? Is black people complaining for a good reason. So we look at popular culture. It doesn't take a genius to see that that's what it is. Even if you're Republican, Martin Luther King, where's the white Christian Republican in a predominantly white nation dying in the same manner? You just don't see it. In fact, the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, they spoke out against Christianity. Moving on. So what am I? You know, I'm uncontrolled opposition. I present the abundance of evidence and I overkill my points. You know, talk about martial arts perspective. Where am I? I'm in California. When? 2009 to 2018 is when I made my videos, and certainly I plan to wrap it up hopefully after this video. And before that, I was on Yahoo for many years and talking to people about these types of things with an emphasis on religion and Christianity, and more specifically the morals in Christianity and why they reject the idea of the importance of the evil tribe when they gave such a profound sacrifice that is really unparalleled in the history of humanity. So how? Uncontrolled, intense spirit, isolated, small yuppie town, Santa Clara County. Okay, so how did I do it? I did it uncontrolled because of these factors. They have to do with where I am. It also has to do with how. They're all connected, right? Why? Honor. Okay, I wasn't paid for any of this stuff. It caused my persecution. It caused me to go blind. I've gone on record saying embarrassing things, like I'm being chemically castrated and so on. So, and I talk about Godspeed and you know, the combination of skills, right, and sex, you know, a combination of things, and how, you know, stupid not to say it that way. Moving on. So capitalism is crony capitalism. So let's start with who, okay? Who and what are connected? Cults, secret societies, parties, organized entities that exist for the purpose of creating crony capitalism. Cronies, how many? Who? Secret societies, right? Who are the cronies? Who, what, when, where, how, why? I'm running out of time. I'll leave that up to you to figure it out. But it's a very, very straightforward thing that there's hundreds of secret societies, over 2 million Masons alone. There's tons of cronies. It's not a small group of rich people that just happen to be thrown off the system. It is the complicity of pretty much everybody but me. Moving on. Cult or culture-based structure. Okay, who and what, right? And so who, what, where. So let's just go to the next category. Okay, how? It's where. It's in America. It's all over the world. Okay, how? Celebrities, spokesmen, organizations that more or less set trends, to be diplomatic, to the psychotic people who don't want to publicly admit how things work. So when you look at it in terms of the hypocrisy of mental health, these people are basically forcing, you know, they're psychotic, right? They're dangerously delusional, and they're lashing out against each other, against the other party. They're acting like little emotional little kids, lashing out in a quite, frankly, a quite dangerous manner that does get people killed. And we've seen that in these political clashes over things that they're both wrong about, right? It's psychotic to be that way. Why? And it's psychotic to contribute to this party system that is causing people's deaths over something that you're both wrong about. Okay, if I caused everyone's death in the world but mine, or even my own, if the whole world ended, at least I would be right. But they're causing all this death and rape and all turmoil when they're wrong. Okay, they're playing stupid about things. So why? They're playing stupid out of selfishness, and then arguing that people control you, the people who control us are playing stupid, when your actions obviously contribute to screening out people, especially disenfranchised, vulnerable, and righteous people, whistleblowers, etc. So their argument is just mind-blowing. They're arguing that, oh, these guys are playing stupid and they're on TV lying to us, and you're lying too. You're part of the political process. You're a good controlled opposition bitch. You know, and even if you're in this kind of alternative media movement, you're lying as well. Purposely so, playing stupid, trying to do what's in your best interest. It's safe to say that almost any American, if they were in the shoes of the elite, would do the same thing. Therefore, they're testifying against themselves, and they're also testifying that capitalism leads to crony capitalism. This form of democracy leads to crony capitalism. Democracy and communism and all these other systems are wrong. Communism is basically bigging up a bunch of secret society technocrat, know-it-all type of bitches who don't know shit, have no heart at all, and they're misleaders, and they use the loopholes in the system they create to, elevate themselves in their minds of people one way or another. There's no true equality in communism. It's impossible. All right, moving on. We can use Stephen as the example. You are the betrayers of the righteous one. You all contributed to it, even though I believe at that period, none of those people were alive when Jesus died. They're referring to the spirit of the treachery, the energy, the idea. Moving on. Corporations recorded funding sex cults. So when? So the idea of a corporation funding cults, sex cults, to control culture goes back to Justinian, I believe, in 500 AD in Rome. I'll correct in the comments if it's not the case. So, yeah, this is ridiculous. I hate when I run out of time and I want to end this thing. So, so basically the color people's wears to show their allegiance creates a type of sexual energy. They're marketing themselves as part of their sex appeal, as part of their market value, the job market, marketing their skills, right? And it includes the ability to say, hey, if I have sex with this person, I'm going to have this kind of an idea, this kind of an effect. And of course, it's a no-brainer. When we look at women, we see them that way. When women look at men often, they see them that way. It's part of their marketing value. Feminism is trying to play it off, the group activity. It's more, and trying to play off the fact it's more evil for a woman to do it. She's on the receiving end. I don't have time to explore that, and it pisses me off that they would even try to play that off. It makes me want to fucking start beating the shit out of fit women just randomly, because there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for any of this shit, really. You know, well, now I'm out of time, you know, fuck off.